ever feel like just completely overwhelmed with like all the information out there?
Yeah, definitely. It's like every time you open your phone, new headline, new notification, it's a lot to process.
It really is, and that's what we're diving into today.
We're talking about navigating this crazy modern world of communication, all the good and the bad that comes with it.
And to help us unpack it all, we're turning to communication expert Carlos Villalobos.
His work, Nuevas Voces, Viejos Riesgos, o Una Oda a la Comunicación Moderna. It's a mouthful, but trust me, it's full of insights.
So no easy answers then?
Well, Villalobos would say there's never been an easy answer when it comes to communication.
Fair enough. So what's he got to say about this information overload?
Well, he actually argues that one of the root causes is this crisis of trust in traditional media.
Makes sense. You see all these biases, hidden agendas, people start to tune out.
Exactly, and that erosion of trust creates this void, and what rushes in to fill it.
All the new voices, new platforms, the whole digital landscape, right?
Precisely. And on the one hand, it's incredible. More perspectives, more dialogue happening than ever before.
Okay, but there's got to be a but coming here.
There's always a but, right? The downside is that not all these new voices are, shall we say, created equal.
Meaning?
Well, it's like we've suddenly handed everyone a megaphone.
And not everyone knows how to use a megaphone responsibly.
Exactly. Villalobos calls it becoming a digital loudspeaker. And with that comes a whole lot of responsibility.
I like that, the digital loudspeaker. Okay, so it's not just about having a voice, it's about what you do with it. But how do we even begin to navigate this landscape where everyone's shouting?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I think the first step is just awareness.
Awareness of what, exactly?
Awareness of how this new media landscape works, its power dynamics, and our own roles within it.
So, like, realizing we're not just passengers along for the ride, but active participants shaping the conversation.
Exactly. And that awareness is the foundation for everything else.
Okay, so awareness is step one. What comes next? What do we do with this awareness?
Well, that's where we really start diving deep into Villalobos' recommendations. And that's a conversation for our next part.
So we left off talking about awareness. Like, step one is realizing how much power we actually have in shaping online discourse.
Exactly. And I know it can feel kind of overwhelming. Like, am I really supposed to fact check every meme before I hit share?
Right. It's like, where do we even begin with that?
Well, Villalobos would say it's not about becoming, investigative journalists overnight.
Thank goodness for that.
It's more about making small but conscious changes in how we engage online.
Okay, so give me an example. What's one thing our listeners could start doing today to be a little more critical online?
How about this? Next time you see a headline, the one that makes you go, oh, I got to share this right now. Stop for a second.
Just pause.
Yeah, before you hit that share button, ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Like, what's motivating me here?
Okay, interesting. So check your motives before you check your timeline.
Exactly. Is it from a source I trust? Have I actually read the full article or just skimmed the headline?
Ooh, that's good. I'm guilty of that, getting sucked in by a catchy headline.
Happens to the best of us. And Villalobos actually talks about this phenomenon. He calls it emotional pornography.
Emotional pornography. Okay, now I have to know more.
Basically, it's how information, especially online, is packaged to trigger these really strong instant reactions, often fear or anger.
It's like clickbait, but for our feelings.
Exactly. And it can be really harmful because when you're triggered like that, it kind of short-circuits critical thinking. You're just reacting, not really reflecting.
Less reacting, more reflecting. I like that. But, okay, what about this? Even when I try to be more open-minded online, I still feel like I'm stuck in my own little bubble.
Oh, the dreaded echo chamber.
It's real. So how do we break out of it? How do we make sure we're not just hearing what we want to hear all the time?
Well, Villalobos suggests actively seeking out diverse perspectives.
Sounds simple enough, but...
It's harder than it sounds, right? Because it's so easy, especially online, to get caught in that echo chamber where everyone agrees with you, pats you on the back.
Especially with the algorithms and all that. It's like they want to keep us in our little boxes.
They do. But you got to fight against that. Actively seek out people with different backgrounds, different beliefs.
Yeah.
Even if it makes you a little uncomfortable at first.
Because a little discomfort can be a good thing, right? Like a sign that you're actually challenging your own assumptions.
Exactly. That's how we grow, how we build a more nuanced and, frankly, more interesting understanding of the world.
So it's not about being right all the time. It's more about being curious.
Love that. And building on that idea of curiosity, Villalobos talks about something he calls the peripheral perspective.
Peripheral perspective. All right, break it down for us. What's that all about?
So essentially, it's this idea that The most valuable insights often come from the edges, not the center.
From the margins.
Exactly. From people and communities whose voices are often overlooked or ignored by, mainstream media.
Like the unsung experts, people with lived experience, but not necessarily fancy degrees or platforms.
You got it. And what's so exciting is that in this digital age, those voices have more power than ever to be heard. It's a huge opportunity.
For everyone, both for the people sharing their stories and for all of us listening and learning.
Couldn't say it better myself.
It's like everyone's got a story, right?
Right.
But now we've all got the platform to actually share it. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. And it makes me think about something else Villalobos talks about. This idea that we need to move beyond that old way of thinking about producers and consumers of information.
Because online, it's like we're kind of both at the same time, right? Creating and consuming constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And that realization, it's empowering, but also a little daunting.
How so?
Well, because it means that every time we post something, share an article, even just leave a comment, we're not just expressing our own opinion. We're actually shaping the information landscape for other people.
Whoa, yeah, when you put it like that, it makes you realize how much weight our words can actually carry online.
For good or for bad, right? Because just like accurate information can spread quickly, misinformation can too, like wildfire.
That's the double-edged sword of it all, I guess. So where does that leave us then? We've talked about all the potential pitfalls, the risks of this new media landscape, but also the incredible opportunities.
Right, and it feels like Villalobos' main message is, it's all about finding that balance, embracing the good stuff, while staying vigilant about the risks.
Easier said than done, though, right? So how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
He'd say it starts with recognizing our own agency in all of this.
What do you mean?
Like, we're not powerless, right? Just because there's this constant flood of information doesn't mean we have to drown in it.
Okay, so we're not helpless, but what's the alternative?
We have choice in every interaction. We choose what we consume, what we share, how we react to things we see online. We have more control than we often realize.
So it's about making conscious choices.
Yeah, and those choices, they matter. Choosing to be a little more critical, a little more curious, choosing to engage in good faith, even when it's hard.
Choosing to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Exactly. And honestly, that gives me hope, because I really believe that when enough people make those choices, even small ones, it can start to shift the entire culture of online communication.
And that's a world I want to live in.
Me too. A world where we're all a little more thoughtful, a little more discerning about the information we encounter and share.
It's about remembering that we're all in this together, right? Navigating this crazy digital world, trying to make sense of it all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Think so too.
But keep those conversations going, listeners. Be curious, be kind to each other, and until next time, happy diving, everyone.